rest of the story.
Hey, it's real. We're talking on FT, and AJ is stationary. He is not in spring training today. I repeat, he is not in spring training, but he is back tomorrow. Are you excited for your trip tomorrow to see your buddy?
Who's my buddy?
Lance Lynn?
All Cardinals ever?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. I'm excited. I'm kind of mad about it. I'm mad at him right now, though, so, yeah. But, yeah.
You guys are in a fight?
Oh,
We're in a lover's quarrel.
oh, that's neat.
Is it over golf?
It's over the fact that he won't hang out with me. He's got all these. He always has an excuse. It's weird, All
He
I
has
want
like
is to ride
90 kids.
He has all the kids in a
Yeah.
pink Bronco.
I mean, I just want to ride in the pink Bronco, but he won't even do that for me. So I'm just going to steal it tomorrow.
Prove it. Prove it. Do the show from his pink Bronco.
You think I won't grab his keys out of his locker and take that bitch for a spin while he's on the field?
I need to see it.
Oh, I definitely think you will. The boss move, though, is if you actually take the Bronco and drop each kid off at their activity and then come back and say, yes, I stole your car, but I also did your job.
No, the thing is, you just take his car and you just switch parking spots. Like if he's like in this one, then you just move it. And he'll be like, wait, who took one? And then you take a selfie in it.
I think he's well aware that with you at camp tomorrow, all bets are off. Anything that seems abnormal is just AJ. So if something seems like it's missing,
Just constantly
misplaced, yeah, he's going to be on the lookout tomorrow.
My glove feels weird. Did AJ do something to it? Or do a Stormy Weathers thing? Take a poop in his cup and don't tell him.
Excuse me?
Stormy Weathers?
Go on.
The reliever from the Reds. He pooped in Jason Standrish's cup and put it back in his jock strap so he couldn't see it. Standrish put his jock strap on, went out to BP. The whole time he's like, oh, what is that smell? True story.
Is that public?
Now it is.
It is now.
That's rough. That's a really
Wow.
aggressive.
That's aggressive. That's way
What's this dude's
aggressive
name?
right there.
Stormy Weathers.
Stormy
David
Weathers.
Weathers.
David Weathers.
Oh, David Weathers.
David Weathers.
Okay, David Weathers.
What did I say?
You said Stormy.
Sorry.
Is that his nickname?
Yeah, that's his nickname.
Well, it should be something else.
Prankster galore. And Standrish ended up having like 10 years in Japan, but he was a rookie, and I guess he said he did some kind of prank to Stormy, and he's like, prank ended.
Was he ever the same? That's a rough prank.
That's a tough prank.
That is really aggressive. AJ,
Right,
if
so
that
I have
prank
to
was
ask- yeah,
done to
too-
you as a
too
rookie,
aggressive.
what would you have done?
There would have been probably a fist fight happening. That's too much. Like I wasn't one of those guys, like if you wanted to prank somebody, like I didn't mess with the guy's stuff, right? Like that's my stuff. Like stay the fuck out of my stuff. Don't touch my
things. Yeah.
Right? Like you can do whatever you want to me, but just don't touch my stuff. If you want to, like meaning like in my locker, like, if you want to move my car or do something like that, okay, cool. Just don't touch my stuff that I have to wear to play the game, because that's affecting my performance, which therefore affects my, checks down the road and my all that stuff. So I always had a big problem with that. My question for you though, Kratz, is did you not take your cup out of your jockstrap every night when you washed it?
I think it was before the game. Oh,
But
if you don't
still,
take it out? Oh, it's disgusting.
I took it out every night. As soon as the game was over, that was the first thing. You cup out, cup in the locker, get the cup the next day. I would have noticed if someone took a poop in my.
It was in his jock strap already, so I don't know. Pitchers maybe.
Yeah, see, I would have been on high alert, because I would have been like, I never do this. I always put it in. I don't know.
That is my line too. That is my line.
What, you always take your cup out of your jock
No,
strap?
if I was playing and that prank was done to me, I would have problems. That's my line. That's a rough one.
Everybody reacts differently.
That is a legendary prank.
I wish I would have been there to see it. I heard it from Standrich.
Mm-hmm. And he told it with calmness. He wasn't like,
this
yo,
guy
I was fuming.
This guy's perfect. He's like 6'5", 250-pound pitcher, the nicest man alive, always smiling. Look up Jason Standrich.
I will. He's the most tolerant man alive as well. Jason, you're a warrior. But With that, let's charge the damn mound. Eddie Rosario is a Washington National. It is a deal that can get up to $4 million with incentives. This is called a split contract. I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain it that well. So for our major minor league expert, let's go to 3 inches to my left, Erik Kratz.
4.5 inches. That's how close.
Sure.
Although our arms touch sometimes.
Yep, they do. It happens.
It is split contract. Just means he got a minor league deal.
Really?
It just means, and he negotiated because of how much service he has. He negotiated his big league salary. Like, to me, this is what veterans, especially a guy who had to me, above average season last year on the best team in the National League last year, if not the best team in all of baseball last year. He was a fixture in left field for him. Yeah, I get it. He might be a platoon advantage guy, but he put up above average numbers and he gets a minor league deal. This is a minor league deal. Don't get it twisted. It's not split. He gets nothing unless he makes the team. And most teams, especially like a Nationals team who's not going to contend, they're going to tell him, hey, you made the team out of camp. Sign this 45-day clause. So all $44 million of that contract is not guaranteed just because he makes the team. It's kind of what Todd was talking about the other day. You sign it, and before 45 days, team goes in the tank. He doesn't do well. See ya. And all they owe is 45 days.
I'll give you the definition too, AJ. So it says a split contract calls for a player to earn different salaries in the majors and minors. On a split contract, you would get the prorated version of your major league salary for any time spent on the major league roster. So to me, that's like a minor league deal, like you said.
It's a minor league deal.
It's a fancy schmancy.
Although I will say this, the only thing different is he can go to the minor leagues, because if he gets to camp late, they might say to him, hey, because he's probably out of options. He's got too much service time.
Yeah.
So he probably did this like, hey, we need you to go to AAA for 2 weeks. Are you okay? Instead of having to go to him, he's probably already agreed to that if he's not ready.
As opposed to what though, AJ? What do you mean? As opposed to
going, because if you're a non-roster guy and he has enough time, like most of the time the team will come to you and say, hey, you're not going to make the team, and most guys will say release me. But the way I read this, it's like he's already agreed. Kind of, if they say, hey, you're not going to make the team, will you go to AAA for a week or something? It seems like he's already said yes to that.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and that's trash for a guy that not for Eddie. It's trash that a guy that had a 1.1 WAR, and I'm just going to go to WAR just to give it an easy. That he was an above average player. His OPS plus in the big leagues was completely average for a big leaguer, not completely average for minor leaguers that need to get called up. This is MVP. Well, I guess he wasn't NLCS MVP. He was NLDS. They don't have an NLDS MVP. He carried the Braves the first 2 rounds of the playoffs when they won the World Series. This is a solid big league contributor getting a minor league deal. It's exactly what TK was talking about.
He was NLCS MVP, by the way.
He did win NLCS? Okay.
Yeah, because then Soler won the World Series MVP, but he won NLCS MVP. He was insane.
They don't get there without him.
No, I know, but that was in the past. But let's push it forward, okay?
But he still produced last year.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, 21 homers. AJ, the on-base percentage is low, but like Kratz mentioned, this is league average offense. Defense sometimes in question. He actually was 80th percentile out above average range last year. So the arm value was low. The arm strength was about average, but it's not like he's a total mess out there. He's still an above average runner. So he's made plenty of clutch deliveries in those kind of situations at the plate. Is this a minor league contract level player? I mean, nobody wanted him. That the Nationals, I think, are going to have a nice little get here to help them while they bridge the gap between James Wood and Dylan Cruz being major leaguers.
It's kind of what we already mentioned. Kike Hernandez was kind of mentioning this there. And this is a guy that should be on a big league roster. He should be on a competitive team because he can help you, especially on a platooning team. He definitely can help you against right-handed pitchers. So I don't know. I don't know why he hasn't signed. Was he asking for too much money? I don't know. I wasn't in the negotiations. But I find it hard to believe that a guy like this has to wait until March 6th to find a big league / minor league job. Are you kidding me? But again, I don't know all the details. But it just seems crazy that there's a lot of big league above average players that are just sitting out there waiting and waiting and waiting. And guess what? They're running out of time.
Where's Michael Lorenzen? What's wrong with Michael Lorenzen? What am I missing?
Ken, maybe we can ask Ken too. He's looking for a 2-year deal.
Oh, okay. So he's getting the fight from teams saying we're giving you 1 and he wants 2.
And I think he got 8.5 or 9.5 last year, and he would like the same in a 2-year deal. So he's looking at like an 18 to 20 range. Yeah, sorry about your no-hitter in the show last year. And
a good year up until the end of the season when
he's
he
versatile.
ran out of gas. Yeah.
So maybe his ask is too high, but I want to ask Ken about it.
But again, it goes back to what we talk about. We've talked about this. If you think you're worth $10 million and every team is saying you're worth $5 million, guess how much you're worth? You're worth $5 million, even though you think you're worth 10. It doesn't matter. At some point, and that's what we keep talking about with the Snell and the Montgomery and JD Martinez, the guys that are still left out there. This is how teams can also hold down salaries by saying, hey, we're just going to wait it out. And, I mean, the players have no recourse, really. I mean, we can use the collusion word, but they have to prove it, and that's a long, big old court fight. So, I mean, it's tough to prove, but this is a way for teams, even though they say they aren't doing it. If, like TK Hernandez said, he got offers the same amount around the same time from different teams. I mean, that spells it out for you.
And here's a good example. AJ is obviously a different position, different career. Only 5 times in AJ's career would he have had an OPS plus higher than Eddie Rosario had. And how many 1-year minor league contracts did you have to sign? Again, you're a catcher. I get it.
I never signed one.
Never. And that's you shouldn't have. You're a fringe Hall of Fame player at a premium position. I get it. Eddie's not a premium position. There's got to be it's got to be, to me, it should be a $4 million deal. That's it. Kike got $4 million. Maybe he should get 3.5. Whatever you want to do. It's in that. I think Kike's underpaid. We can argue semantics there. It should be a big league deal.
And also, Kike had the injury, but he was coming off some down numbers. Eddie Rosario's numbers are not bad. He's still an above-average player if you're looking at offense and defense. And a win is supposed to be worth, $8 to $12 million? So he's on a.
They went away from that. Teams went away from that, though, because then the people were like, oh, we'll just use wins and get more money on the free agent market. So then teams are like, oh, we're not going to use that anymore, even though we came up with that stat that we all high and mighty on. That's the stat we're going to use. Oh, wait, it makes players get paid more? Guess what? Well, we're not going to use that stat anymore. We're going to have our own. We're going to have our own stats we use that we won't tell you about.
They don't all use the same stats and have like a database where like it would put like a value to a player, do they?
Computers can't do that yet.
Computers can't do
that. The best is when you would be a free agent, you call a team and you'd be like, okay, coming off a good year, whatever, 2 war, right? Which back then was like, okay, that's $5 million a win, so I should be getting $10 million. You call a team, they're like, oh, well, we respect war, but we have our own numbers we use, but we're not going to tell you what those numbers are. So here's $2 million. You're like, wait a minute, how do I go from 10 to 2? That's when it gets crazy for players because nobody exactly knows what they really use because nobody has to say it.
This guy's a winner, and a winner should have him on the team.
Agreed.
Yeah, we're going to watch the first few weeks of the season, and now this is a perfect example of a player that I'm going to go, is Eddie Rosario better than this dude? Is Eddie Rosario better than this dude? On contending teams, right? You're going to watch, a Sunday game where a 4th outfielder's in, right? And it's early in the season. Maybe there aren't as many injuries. And I'm going to be like, is that guy better than Eddie Rosario? What am I missing?
Heavy platoon guy. Heavy platoon. Like you're going to give him all of the right-handed starters. Mm-hmm. And when he's hot, there's nobody hotter. You saw it in the playoffs. There's nobody hotter. He can hit lefties, righties, and he can go cold. I get it. I get that's, low on base percentage. Hurts, but there is big league production in this bat and the glove.
Bad ball hitter too, so that can sometimes get
tough
you in trouble.
Pitch too.
But in the playoffs, sometimes that can be everything, right? I just need a knock, dude. Even if it's a little bit outside the zone, can you go the other way with this pitch? And yeah, that one was confusing to me. That's all. I mean,
he does it with damage too. He does bad ball damage.
20 plus homers. And not a full season of ABs. It might sound like, oh, we're going too hard with Eddie Rosario here. He made $9 million last year. They turned down his option for this season. And I get it. He can make up to 4, but he doesn't get a major league contract?
That's my biggest gripe here.
The major league contract.
The major league contract part.
He's 32 years old. He's not 49. I'm just utterly confused. I'm not like, oh my gosh, Eddie Rosario needs a 5-year, $100 million deal. I get it. 1-year contract. But like you said, major league deal. So something to think about. I'm confused. Braves fans know what I'm talking about. Like you said, Braves fans love Eddie Rosario. He had his ups and downs. He also had the eye issue, remember? So in 2022, slow start, swelling in his right eye, had a procedure, was out for a while, messed him up a little bit. Better last year.
I didn't remember that.
Yep. So
he's a hell of a player, though. He's a good player.
Yeah, that's a winning player. So hopefully he does well with the Nats. I think the last layer of this is the Nats are likely going to have James Wood and Dylan Cruz still in the minor leagues to start the season, and they'll call them.
Dude, the Nats are loaded in the outfield. Nats are loaded in the outfield.
Oh, really? Go on.
I mean, they have Lane Thomas, they have Robles, who they brought back.
Yeah.
Right? What's his name? Stone Garrett? That dude's a monster. I mean, I don't know if he's a great player, but he's a big dude. He's the guy coming off the bus first. Right? There's 3 right there. We haven't even hit on Cruz or Wood, and then you throw in Eddie Rosario. There's 4 outfielders at least on the Nats, so the Nats are loaded in the outfield.
Yeah, and don't sleep on the season that Stone Garrett had. He started. It was all that second half too, where the Nats were almost at 500. Maybe we're complimenting something that shouldn't be complimented, but to me, he was one of the guys. That outfield is tradable, especially if C.J. Abrams becomes something. Now you're solid in all 3 outfield positions. Because if James Wood doesn't become something, man, did I miss. My eyes are going cross-eyed if I miss that one.
He's destroying pitching in spring training right now. I get it. I know.
Yeah, but it's different.
Training, but
it's different. It's different spring training homers. He's going inside pitches. He's taking the left center. He's going pitches away. He's going to right center with him. He's going to big parts of the ballpark. And watching all his home runs from last year, he's taking balls center field to oppo all the time for his dingers. It's versus lefties and righties.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the major league roster now can have Gallo, if he's right, Eddie Rosario, Lane Thomas, Robles, Garrett, and then 2 potential all-stars waiting in the wings. Maybe the Nats mess around a little and are much more of a pain in the ass than
they were a pain in the ass for teams last year, the second half.
Second half, they were about 500. They were, I think, 35 and 37 in the second half.
Money.
They were a pain in the ass last year.
Money.
We're getting to a point where I like to play this game. Which lineup do you like better? I know I made it too easy yesterday. I said Mets or Marlins. How about Nationals or Marlins? Which lineup do you like better? Pretty close, right?
Depends on what Tim Anderson comes out.
Sure.
Depends if Jake Berger can grow from where he was, because that's if he's only going to produce what he did last year, that's still pretty solid.
Yes.
I don't think the Nats have anybody in the infield that can do what he does from a
Joe
power
Gallo.
game.
Joe Gallo.
Yeah, Gallo can.
Gallo can.
He could be, I guess, kind of
Who do you take?
Poor man's Jake Berger.
Who do you take, Berger or Gallo?
Berger.
I mean, Gallo gives you defense, and you love defense.
I do love defense, but I still take Berger.
He had a 120 OPS plus last year. Berger was 250, 34 homers, 309 on base, 518 slugging. Yeah, had a great year. A guy that had been injured most of his career, and finally had his breakout season at, 27 years old for most of last season.
Jazz can't be mid if the Marlins are going to compete. They do a lot of good things. AJ always tell you they won a lot of one-run games.
Mm-hmm. It's just an interesting debate that the Nationals are starting to build. I mean, Ruiz should be a little better with the bat, and on like the players.
That's why I said it wouldn't surprise me if they went out and signed a big free agent, because they're kind of building towards that spot, right? We talked to Davey Martinez. It was build. Well, then if you can get a Snell for a 5-year deal, then you look 3 years from now, you're like, all right, we still have Blake Snell, or that's kind of, the way they've done it.
I agree. I think start now. Let's get to a very recent free agent signing for the St. Louis Cardinals. Joining us on FT Live, it is Brandon Crawford. Does that sound weird still to you? It's St. Louis Cardinals infielder Brandon Crawford. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. It sounds a little weird still. It doesn't sound as weird as it looks like in pictures that I've seen so far, but
Really? There's no picture with
yeah.
you in it that looks weird.
And the red looks a little different, but
It looks
I'm starting
different.
to get used to it. Starting to get used to it.
Orange made your hair and your eyes really, really pop. Like look at Scotty's orange shirt today. It makes his hair pop. And your hair, it's gonna look just as curly in St. Louis. Issue is you're gonna have a lot of humidity. There's gonna be so much sweat in that greasy mop of yours. So just good luck. Good luck.
I'm realizing that down here in Florida. First Florida spring training.
First Florida spring training. How is that? How is that so far?
It's been good. Jupiter's nice, so I've heard that's about as good as it gets in Florida spring training. I live in Scottsdale though, so it's hard to be living at home during spring, but it's been nice.
You're grinding.
Brandon, just welcome to God's country, first of all. Congratulations.
Said nobody.
To God's country for spring training. Congratulations. And then is your favorite holiday Halloween?
Christmas, I think.
No, because you love the orange and black so much. I just assumed, you had to be a Halloween guy. And now you're saying the red looks weird. The red looks weird. I get it. First time. I mean, think about how lucky you were, though. First time you switched teams. 13 years in one organization in the big leagues, and then you're like, oh, man, I got to switch teams? So talk me through, because I always tell these guys the first time is weird, right? You walk into a new clubhouse. You walk into a new bunch of guys. Explain that to Scotty, because especially Scott. Kratz switch teams every week, so he gets it.
I was with MLB for 12 years, and then I left to join you clowns. So I get it, but you tell me, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of feel like the new kid coming into school in the in the middle of the year, especially when it's like a week into spring. I think is when I got here. So, but knowing a few guys, like Nolan and Goldie, just from playing against them and getting to know them over the years, and then meeting a few more guys this off season. That definitely helped the transition. And then it's a bunch of good dudes over here. So, I think that helped also, just welcoming me in. Coaching staff's been great. Front office has been great. So I'm excited to join these guys.
We heard a lot. We heard from Nolan Arenado, and we had Miles Michaelis on here talking about you know what, maybe some of the rookies didn't quite know their place or were a little loud because they didn't have the veteran presence. When you signed, or when you were talking about signing with these guys, was that something that was brought up?
It was something I had heard about, but I don't think it's really been made a big deal this spring. I mean, because there is a strong veteran presence here now. So it was stuff that I had heard about, but we've had some good meetings and some good talks already that is really encouraging, I think, for this team, because it's a great lineup. We have some good pitchers. So, I mean, some of the stuff that's been said is really encouraging for the Cardinals this year, and I think we can have a great year.
Hey, Brandon, I'm interested in your view of the dynamic of the young player these days. So we had Miles Michaelis on recently and asked him about Nolan Arenado's comments about the clubhouse last year and just feeling like they wanted more of a veteran presence like we're talking about here. When we asked Miles, one of the reasons he brought it up was, all the players are just buried in their phones, which is not just a young Cardinals player thing. I'm sure you've seen it all over the place. So do you see that everywhere, when you were with the Giants? And how do you combat that? Do you just pick up the phone and just throw it in the garbage?
I think it's just kind of the day and age that we're in now. Everything's on your phone. So, the young guys, the old guys, that it doesn't matter. Really, I mean, it could be anything from young guys checking their social media because that's what they grew up on, or older guys checking in with their family and stuff like that. So, I think just so much stuff is is connected to the phone now, to where, yeah, you're going to see a lot of guys, go into that or, being on that, whether it's in the clubhouse or whatever. But I don't know, unless it's like right before the game where somebody's buried on their phone, then I don't think it's a huge issue as long as everyone's getting their work done.
Brandon, you're talking about phones. Did the Giants give you a phone call? Did you guys have any talk before, maybe at the end of last year? Was there anything Farhan said to you, like where you were like, man, they're really not going to bring me back? Because when I look at like Giants for the last, obviously 10 plus years, you're right up there on the list of dudes that did amazing things in that uniform. And for me personally, you deserved maybe to end your career on one organization. So was there any communication there?
Yeah. It's not something I really want to dive into a whole lot anymore.
Okay.
It's been talked about a little bit, and but yeah, I mean, I had a meeting with Farhan pretty early into the off season, just kind of letting him know that I wanted to come back. I wanted to end my career as a Giant, and understood how I had played the last couple of years, and so not necessarily coming back in the same role, but more as like a mentor, even utility guy. I would play second or third or, whatever the team needs me to do, which is basically what I'm the same kind of role that I'm here now in, with the Cardinals. I don't know if they're going to need me to play second or third because there are a few utility guys who can do that. But I mean, it was pretty obvious that I probably wasn't coming back, but still wanted to keep the door open. Throughout the off season, there was probably a very small percentage chance I was coming back, but the closer it got to spring training, the more it seemed apparent that I wasn't going to be back.
Your role here is to kind of mentor Mason Wynn, kind of get a young kid who's up and coming, crazy arm. What does that process look like? And do you have to motivate him, or is just your presence there motivating him?
I think he was quoted right when he was told that I was signing, that it kind of lit a fire under his ass. So I think it was pretty motivating just when he heard I was signing there. But I think he also understands the situation. I'm not here to take his job. I'm here to help him any way that I can. Back him up and give him a day off when he needs it, and then just kind of provide whatever the team needs me to do. So I talked to him the first day and made that pretty clear to him. I'm here for him and to help him any way that I can and help him be a good shortstop for a long time in the big league.
Did you do that in a funny way, or did you do it where you just like, hey bro, I'm here to help you in any way, but don't be intimidated by my incredible good looks?
Well, I don't talk like that, number one.
You do. That's 100%.
Yeah,
listen,
right.
I don't talk like that, number one. That's exactly how you talk.
I don't say hey bro though either.
Yes, you do. The first text you sent me was, hey bro, I love FT and I want to come on your show because my hair is never too long and never too short. That's what you said. Hey bro. Anyway,
back to your question. No,
it?
I don't think I did it in a funny way. I think it was like I was trying to get to know him a little bit and then kind of just let him know like, hey, whatever you need, I'm here for you.
Hey, Brandon, question, because we talked about that quote and I think it was a little bit misunderstood. Some people were like, well, he wasn't trying and motivated before that. I'm like, I don't think that's really what he meant. Can you kind of help to explain what that means when someone like you, who obviously is looked up to, joins the party to be a mentor, and kind of how he wants to impress you, I would say, to an extent, and learn from you and take advantage of the time he has?
No, yeah. I mean, as a 21-year-old who's kind of being given the reins to playing shortstop for a big league team, he's plenty motivated, I'm sure. I mean, I can already see it in the work that he does. Trying to consistently get better. He's plenty motivated. It didn't take me me coming over here for that. But I kind of went a little bit. I was in the same situation in 2012 where I hadn't done a whole lot going into that season, and we signed a guy who I wasn't sure if he was, competition or, I didn't know if I was getting the shortstop job out of spring training that year. Little did I know it was Ryan Terrio, and he couldn't make the throw across the infield anymore. So I wasn't too worried after that.
The riot. But the one part of the quote that you didn't say was it lit a fire under his ass. And then he goes, so I had to look this guy up.
That's what I was going to say. He had to look your ass up.
Well, that man didn't know who you were. That's why I'm saying maybe tomorrow you need to go. Today's your off day. Maybe tomorrow you need to go with all your rings and these like gloves that are a different color, and just be like, Mason, I didn't know if your Google was working or not, but I just wanted to help give you a presentation of who I am.
I'm pretty sure he knows now.
Now he does.
We've talked, yeah.
Now he does. So did you tell him how many Gold Gloves you have?
I haven't mentioned it, no, but
you should.
But
you should. Are you gonna do the same bracket? What people may not know about B. Crawl, unless you follow him on Twitter, he kind of puts some of his brackets out there. He is a bracket man, and I don't mean just March Madness. I'm talking everything from cereal to best teammate to worst teammate to best hair to best. If something can be split into 64 rounds, my guy can do it here. So are you taking that to the Cardinals, or did the Cardinal Way book say no brackets allowed? We will not allow gambling in the clubhouse because that could distract us from the baseball?
We haven't brought it up yet, but I haven't done many brackets really since 2020. That was more of like a lockout thing. Kind of bored, stuck at home, or sorry, not lockout, but like a COVID thing where nothing was going on, the world shut down. Just kind of bored at home, and between running after the kids in the backyard and around the house, I was, figured out some brackets, some fan interaction, just to have a little bit of fun with the fans during that time. I haven't done many since. I think I did one maybe at the start of last season, but no, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Brandon, when we had Miles on, he said that Matt Carpenter is kind of take the leadership role. I'm asking you, as a former teammate of Matt Carpenter in 2014, when you guys all broke our hearts, Travis Ishikawa hitting some random home run that took you guys to some big thing that was a World Series or something. Can you please take the mantle of leader away from Matt Carpenter and just say, listen, Matt, you're out, I'm in, please, for me?
I don't know. I like Matt. He's been around here. I know he left for a little while, but came back. He's been a Cardinal for a long time, so I'm not going to take it from him. That's for sure. There are a lot of good veteran leaders on this team, though. So I don't think it'll solely be Matt, but.
Okay, because I'm going to be in camp tomorrow, and I'm going to make sure that I tell him that its time has come and passed, and Brandon Crawford is here, so he's going to take over all his duties as leader of the clubhouse.
He took us all to dinner last night. He wouldn't let me play even. So I know.
What?
No way. No, the first time he's ever done that in his life.
That is such a leader and such a flex
leaders.
on you.
Yeah.
Wait, where did he take you guys? Like 1,000 North? Where did he take you? Waxons?
No, I've been there a couple times. It's good. No, it was like Chinese fusion, Asian fusion type place. Blackbird.
Oh yeah,
maybe?
Blackbird's a good place.
Blackbird,
Yeah.
yes.
Was it in the mall? Did he take you to a food court? Is that why you paid?
Panda is what I meant. Panda Express.
So what do you do on your off day in Jupiter? The weather's kind of shitty, so you're playing golf.
Yeah,
or
the weather's not great today. I didn't bring any of my golf stuff. I know at least a handful of guys were doing that. So far, I've walked across the street and gotten breakfast. That's about it.
Yeah,
big day. Maybe Home Depot, Bed Bath and Beyond. See if we have enough time.
Brandon, I got a couple fan questions. So first off, have you spoken to Brandon Belt, and is he going to sign a contract to play again? Because I don't know. He was pretty damn good last year. Feel like he belongs in the bigs if he wants to.
I agree. I was shocked to hear he hadn't hurt a whole lot recently, and he's kind of in the same situation I was, where it was like, if like our thinking is like, we've had a great career. If nothing comes up, then that makes sense. Then we call it, and pretty proud and happy about what we did in our career. But his kids want him to play, so he's motivated to still go out there and play for them, and I think he is looking for a job.
So is
So
that
would
weird?
I would love to see him keep playing personally.
So would I, because the guy had a 136 OPS plus.
That's really good.
Like, he was really good. If you know what that means, it means he was really good.
Yeah.
Is that weird?
Yeah, I've started to learn some of those metrics. I know what that means.
Okay, good.
He had a good year.
Yeah, he had a really good year for a team that wanted to make the playoffs, and I think there's plenty of teams that want to make the playoffs that can take a big donkey over at first base /DH. They can hit you some dingers, and
still a
has
very good first baseman too,
and a great guy.
Yeah.
So is that weird? Is that weird, guys, that you see Buster chose not to play, you see Belder not getting a job, you see what you got, the offers you got this offseason. Do you feel like there's something going on where it's like, man, when I came up, they were getting veterans to fill these roles, and now it's tougher for guys? Do you see that happening, and is that weird to you?
Yeah, something's happening. I mean, I don't know what the thought is there with teams and front offices, that aren't signing some of these veteran guys that have that not only have like the knowledge of how to play the game the right way, and like winning, and kind of bringing all that kind of stuff to a clubhouse, but also can still play baseball really well. So I don't know what the thought process is there. I mean, this off season is especially weird when you look at some of the guys that are still available. Belt being one of them, Snell, Montgomery, like these guys still aren't signed, and it's weird to me.
Brandon, another fan request here is Bochy. How freaking pumped were you for him to come back and have pretty quick success running the Rangers? Take me to your last combo with him, and really how things changed once he left. I mean, the impact that he made in San Francisco obviously was there for the wins, and then the team had the one good season, but obviously it's not the same since Boch left.
Yeah, I mean, I was pumped for Boch. I mean, I was in ways rooting for Longo for the Diamondbacks, but it was really easy to root for the Rangers also, because Boch being there, and just the leadership and everything that he brings. Just like a tradition of winning, and just knowing what moves to make in the right situations, and he's always been so good at that. And I texted him right after the World Series. He got right back to me. He texted, I think, another time this off season. So I was happy for him.
Brandon, what was it like going from Bruce Bochy, who's like the ultimate old school kind of manager, to Cap, who suntans and does all the body builds, and you go into his office and he's talking to you about like psychological processes, and then you sit down and you talk to Boch, and he's like, well, just go out and win the fucking game. I don't care how you do
it. I'll keep it simple. There are much different people and managers.
Can the game be won if you are completely? Can it be won at the highest level, the biggest games of the year? Because you saw Bochy in your World Series championships and in some downtimes. Can the game be won the way that Cap manages it? And it's not just Cap. You're talking about plenty of other managers who are strictly one certain way So what did Boch do better than, or can it be one the other way? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at 10, 12, 14, and Boch is managing those teams, obviously, and we won the World Series, with his managing style that way. And then you look at 21, we didn't win the World Series, but we won 107 games. So yeah, obviously it can be done either way. And I think there are probably pros and cons to both.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, awesome catching up with you. Enjoy Jupiter. If you need any recs, AJ's on it for you. He knows everybody in God's country. So thanks for joining us, dude. We
and I'll see you tomorrow. Brandon, guess what? You got out of having to talk to us tomorrow. So
That's
congratulations.
He's really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I just want to get in that pink Bronco and drive around.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, B. Crawl, real quick. Your shoe game was absolutely out of control in San Francisco. Maybe the best shoe game, best hair game in the game, maybe top 3 shoe game. Can you transfer that over to St. Louis? Is that a lifetime contract for you?
If you're talking about cleats, I'm working on it.
It's not there yet.
No, signing so late, you don't get the customs right away. So it might take a little while, but they'll be there eventually.
I can't see you in a stock pair. I need you.
Fortunately, there are a few size 12s around the clubhouse, so it won't be stock.
That are not stock?
Yeah, Nolan, Arenado, and Carpenter have some customs in their size 12s, so it's perfect.
See-through cleats to match the pants.
You're bad. See-through. I know one of your teammates I don't want to see in these new pants. Let's put it that way.
Fair. Brandon, awesome catching up with you, man. And you'll see AJ tomorrow, but thanks for the time.
All right. No problem, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Brandon Crawford of the St. Louis Cardinals with us on FT. Good stuff. And we're about to talk Red Sox in a sec, so stay tuned on that front. But still the same, laid back.
He's so cool.
Yeah.
He's so
calm.
cool.
But then on the field, gamer, shows up every day, aggressive, the whole deal. You know what I'm saying? A couple people, maybe unfairly in the chat, were like, it's the anti-Rendon because he is chill, laid back, has the slow heartbeat, but he also will rip your head off on the field. He wants to be there.
He's exactly what you want in a quarterback / shortstop.
And he doesn't want the career to end. The Giants say, hey, listen, this is it for us with you. And he's like, well, no, I want to play another year. F you. So good for him.
And big league players, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe some guys do, they don't want to just hang around. Guys just don't want to hang around and collect a check. Yes, I get it. $4 million is a lot of money. I think that's what he signed for. Or was it maybe not even that much? Whatever. I just have that number in my head right now. They don't want to just hang around. They still want to be a productive part. Like, you can hang around and, like, just talk to guys and be a special assistant. Like, he wants to be a productive part of the team. So, as a Cardinals fan, you're getting everything that he has.
True.
Yep.
He wants to help. He wants to win. And that's exactly what the Cardinals need. They need veteran guys that can come in and do things, little things, show guys how the ropes, and want to win. And that's what the Cardinals have always done. And they brought a couple guys back. They brought back Carpenter. They brought in Brandon Crawford. I mean, Lance Lynn, Sonny Gray, Kyle Gibson. These guys have been winners in their career, and they want to do it again in St. Louis.
And they need to pitch, but that's another story.
Let's bring in our next guest. Sean McAdam writes for MassLive.com, covers the Boston Red Sox, and definitely has drama to cover these days. Sean, welcome to the party here. Great to have you on. And
thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, yeah. Let's get right into biz. So, your reaction to the Lucas Giolito news and the potential that he might not be with this team for the rest of the season?
Yeah, obviously a crushing blow to the Red Sox, who had starting rotations issues to begin with, even adding Giolito. The one thing they thought that they could count on from him were innings. This is a guy that supplied 170 innings or more in, I think, 4 of the last 5 full seasons. That's something they were desperately in need of. It was thought that this was going to be an all-in, full throttle to coin a phrase, off season for the Red Sox. Really, the only starting pitching addition was Giolito, and now he's gone, and likely for not only all of this year, but if indeed it's a torn UCL and he needs Tommy John, then it's unlikely we see him before the All-Star break in 2025. So they'll be on the hook for about $38 million over the 2 years. And if they're lucky, in a best case scenario, they get a half season out of them. So just an unmitigated disaster for the Red Sox, who had starting pitching questions 30 hours ago before this news broke, and now have them doubly so.
I don't blame the Red Sox. I blame the writers, because you guys heard him say full throttle, and I've said it on here 30 times. Full can be spelled F-U-L-L. I think you guys got it wrong, and it's F-O-O-L. It's okay. Sometimes spell check gets it wrong.
We're all human, Eric. I'll go back and listen to the tape, but you may have a point.
But on that, what is the plan? Is there a plan from an ownership standpoint? And maybe the ownership is out of touch and just allows the GMs. But when I look at what's happened, even with Heim, now with Brez, I look at it and I'm like, it seems like the ownership may not have hamstrung the GM, but has definitely not been like, okay, this is the time, we're going in. It's just like, it's almost like a nothing answer. They're always just getting a nothing answer. Or am I wrong on that?
Well, I think you were actually closer to the truth with the hamstring analogy. I think they have been hamstrung. They did spend $225 million last year, but that was a full stop. They weren't allowed to add at the deadline. They weren't allowed to get over that. They weren't allowed to go over the first CBT threshold. And now they're going to open the season at about just over 200 million. So it's definitely a retrenchment on the part of ownership and their commitment to this team. Some have suggested that this is because John Henry, who has also cut spending with his Liverpool soccer team and seen positive results in the wake, now believes that his baseball team should also learn to be more efficient with its money. I don't know if that's true or not, but evidence suggests that there is some sort of that philosophical thinking going on, because they are not spending. They are not the factors they were even 3, 4, 5 years ago, when the Red Sox were always a top 3 payroll team, when they were always a team that were in on just about every significant free agents, or at least asking questions and involved in the periphery. Now, big names come up and the Red Sox are not even mentioned. And it just seems like they're waiting for the big three, as we call them, Meyer, Teal, and Anthony, to come up and have that foundation to build the next great Red Sox team around. And until then, they're sort of left to their own devices. And it's resulted in 2 straight last place finishes and 3 in the last 4.
Okay, so listen, I follow the Premier League. Liverpool hasn't cut their spending by that much. Let's be honest. I mean, they still have a pretty solid core. It's not like what they've kind of done to the Red Sox and just take them way back, right? And my question is, how long will the Red Sox fans put up with this? Because we already heard about it last year. They started to get antsy, right? Why'd they bring Heim Bloom there? To restock the farm system and get them to. Well, he did that. I mean, you look at their farm system; it's restocked. And then they get rid of him, and they're like, okay, well, let's try to find a GM/president of baseball operations. And they're like, okay, we interviewed 10 people. Oh, Craig Breslow, you're it. Because after allegedly all these people turned him down. So how long will the fans be patient with this until we start hearing things like we're hearing in Oakland, where, sell the team, Fenway Sports Group, whatever it's called now, because we want an owner that's going to spend money and put us in the ability to win games and win World Series. Because the Red Sox fans, let's be honest, are spoiled now.
Yeah, they are, AJ. And I can tell you that those sell the team cries have already begun. We don't have to wait for that to happen. It's not quite at the Oakland level of frustration and anger, but Red Sox fans are plenty pissed off. They're not accustomed to, as you said, there were 4 world championships in this century, one as recently as 6 years ago. And whether you called it spoiled or not, there are expectations that even if they're not winning World Series, they're at least playing in October and playing meaningful games. That hasn't been the case. They have dropped like a stone at the trade deadline in each of the last couple of years. As I noted, 3 last place finishes in 4, 1 playoff appearance since their last World Series appearance in 2018. So there is plenty of anger. I think the issue is that, how does that manifest itself? Because last year, despite coming off a last place finish the year before, they drew 2.6 million fans to Fenway. You played there. You know that Fenway is its own ticket selling device. People like to go to the ballpark. You have out-of-town fans. We saw last year a lot of visiting teams bringing thousands of fans with them. And I don't think they're going to dip below 2.5 million either this year. But I think where it really will show itself is in terms of, whether it's branding or TV ratings, those are going to take a hit, because it's one thing to say, I just want to go to the ballpark and enjoy, a game with my family or my friends, have a good time, experience Major League Baseball, make an outing of it. It's another to invest yourself in sitting in front of the TV every night for 6 months. And it's hard to imagine that this team, as currently constituted, is going to engender that kind of interest and devotion. So the sell the team stuff has already begun. I think it's falling on deaf ears. There's no evidence whatsoever that John Henry or Fenway Sports Group is interested in selling the Red Sox off. What they are interested in is scaling back their payroll commitment and waiting for the team to get better from within and then adding to it, instead of adding a guy like Jordan Montgomery with Giolito to make them more competitive in the short term.
But wouldn't you add Jordan Montgomery for the fact that Marcelo Meyer's going to be here in the next year and a half, and then you have a starting pitcher? Or is there a chance that they go into the market next year? Because if you don't do it this year for a guy who's going to give you innings, or my opinion is you do it this year with Monty, and then you go and you try to get Max Fried or Corbin Burns, or am I completely naive and thinking there's no chance? Because there's not a single top 10 pitcher in there, or I think number 10 is their prospect list for the Red Sox. And I used to work in the minor league system for the Red Sox. They've done an incredible job. They've just missed on pitching so far. They have incredible position players.
Yeah, that's been a big failing of the last 10 or 12 years. In fact, you have to go back to like Clay Buchholz to see the last time the Red Sox had a homegrown starter come to the big leagues and really make an impact for them. So it's been a long time. They're hoping that Bayo matures into that guy this year and takes the next step. My concern would be now that with Giolito out, he puts too much pressure on himself, says, I've got to be the guy now. I've got to be the number one. And the expectations are such that he puts too much on his shoulders. We'll see what happens there. But you're right. There isn't a lot of close to the big league starting pitchers in that system. They have plenty of position players. I mentioned 3 of them earlier. There are more than that. They've got some guys with major league service time, like Abreu and Rafaela in the outfield. Vaughn Grissom, when he gets healthy, is supposed to help and be the long-term answer at second base. But they have had difficulty developing their own pitching, and that's the frustrating thing. Craig Breslow and his pitching program may have a huge impact over the next few years, but it's not going to impact 24 or 25, because the 2 guys that are closest, Gonzalez and Perales, are probably a year and a half or 2 years away. And that's if they get there and have an impact right away. You guys know that young pitchers don't have linear development. There are ups and downs, and Bayo's a reminder of that. So it's hard to make sense of what they're trying to do. We understand that Breslow is the guy that is supposed to be sort of the pitching whisperer and bring some of the things he got done in Chicago here, but that's going to take time, and Red Sox fans are running out of patience.
So let's be real. Are the Red Sox tanking this year? Because many fans are thinking that they should be even more aggressive on a phone conversation with Scott Boras about Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell right now. The other side is that ownership is looking at the team, punching in projection numbers and saying, even if we do sign this player, we're a 4th or 5th place team in the division. So who cares?
Well, The thing I would say to that is that if they're tanking, they're doing it in a very expensive way. Because when you look at the teams that did it well, the Astros, the Cubs, the Orioles, they all went well below $100 million in payroll. This team is kind of caught in that murky middle where they're spending $202 million. That's about where they are right now before opening day. So it's the half in, half out problem. If you want, I think it would actually be easier to sell that plan and approach to Red Sox fans. Look, we're sinking to the bottom. We're going to spend $120 million this year, but that's going to get us another top 5 or 6 draft pick, and we're going to slowly rebuild. And look how the Astros did it. Look how the Cubs did it. Look how the Orioles are doing it now. The problem is when you're at $200 million, you're just good enough to hang around 500 as they've been the last couple of years. You're just good enough to be on the periphery of the playoff race when the deadline comes, and yet you're frozen because you don't have the flexibility financially to add, and you're close enough so that it's difficult to sell off and send that message. They're occupying a very murky space in the middle, and it's getting them nowhere.
Which is more likely? The Red Sox finishing at or above 500, or Alex Cora coming back next year?
I would say both are long shots right now. I don't envision Cora coming back. I think he looks at what happened with Craig Counsell, who smartly made himself into the first modern day free agent manager, got teams into a bidding war and got himself a terrific long-term deal from the Cubs. I think Cora believes he can do that too. And because they're not going to be very good, a 500 season would be something of an achievement at this point, particularly in the wake of the Giolito news. It's hard to envision that Craig Breslow is going to take a look at a guy who, whether you want to blame Cora or not, has managed a last-place team for what will be 3 years in a row, and give him some sort of extension. So it may almost be by mutual agreement that Cora leaves, that he wants to see what's out there, and Breslow isn't convinced he's the guy to extend long-term in the first place. So they both shake hands and go their separate ways. I would say that neither is a likely scenario. Let's put it that way.
On Alex Cora, I don't know if you read Ken Rosenthal's article that came out recently about it. And, I'm not putting my house up for sale, and, I still want to be here. But then he's like, but I have young kids in Puerto Rico, and I want to, do this and do that and see what's out there. Now, there were rumors he wanted to be a GM / president of baseball ops. Is there anything now he denies it, obviously, but is there anything inside of this that's like, Alex was like, well, I didn't get the GM. I didn't get the president job. I'm still the manager. Maybe I'll look at something like that instead of managing again?
No, AJ, I think he wants one more managerial contract. I think he wants to manage about another 4 years or so, but he wants to do it at a salary closer to Craig Counsell than his own right now. I think there are designs to be a front office person down the road, where you're not away from home quite as much. But I also think that Alex recognized in September, after Bloom's firing, after initially there was some speculation that he might be a guy that could be promoted and do that. I think he's got more of the managerial bug for the next few years. He wants to stay in the dugout, but he has said, I don't see myself as a Tony La Russa or Bobby Cox or Buck Showalter, managing into my 60s and 70s. I think he wants to get one more deal, make some money, and then reassess what he wants to do going forward with some consultation with his family.
Sean, last one. So it looks like Vaughn Grissom is going to start the season on the IL. I liked the addition for them. I also have said in the past week, I think Chris Sale might have a dynamite year. So what did you think of that trade? And I don't know if you know anything else about Vaughn Grissom in that situation, but like we mentioned, there is some position player depth, but I think he will have a nice career for them.
Yeah, I think they're pretty excited about him. They were when they made the deal. They ended up taking back about $17 million to facilitate that trade, to move on from Sale. I just think it got to a point where they didn't think they could count on Sale to be that 170, 180 inning guy. As it turns out, he looks great this spring. And the irony is that it's Grissom, the guy they got for him, who will start the year on the IL, while Chris Sale is going to probably pitch the second or third game of the season for the Braves. So we'll see how that turns out long term. But the Red Sox think Grissom is very athletic. They love his bat to ball skills. He's got to learn a little bit more about the intricacies of second base, turning that double play from the other side, having been mostly a shortstop. He's played some second in the minor leagues. I talked to Ron Washington, who, of course, is probably the greatest infield coach in the game, who had Grissom in Atlanta. He's very high on him, but says that the Red Sox have to stay on him a little bit, work with him. And that's the hard thing about this groin strain that's going to keep him out early, is that he's losing time to work with Trevor Story in spring training, get comfortable with the double play partner, get comfortable with those feeds and the pivot at second base. I think he's athletic enough to figure that out, but it may take a little time, but they think they have their second baseman of the future in him.
I understand the trade and the Chris Sale and everything, but now the Red Sox, again, we've talked about this, they need starting pitchers. Did they go too soon on the Chris Sale thing? Were they like, we can give Vaughn Grisham? I understand Vaughn Grisham might turn out to be a great player, but is there any looking back on it saying, man, maybe we should have kept Chris Sale? And I know his salary, but they did send a ton of money. Basically, Chris Sale's almost playing for nothing for the Braves this year. So I don't know. It just seems like maybe this is Breslow, maybe this is John Henry looking down on Breslow saying, hey, we need to shed more salary, which is all the Red Sox really have done this offseason. But did they move too early on Sale?
Well, we're going to see over the course of the season, AJ, what Sale is in 2024 in Atlanta. Alex Anthopoulos is a pretty smart executive. He was confident enough about Sale's, relative long-term future to extend him, which I think surprised a lot of fans in New England who saw how brittle Sale had been the last few years. I mean, this is a guy who hasn't made 25 starts in a long, long time. So while I wish Chris Sale the best, I think ultimately we're going to have to see how durable he is in Atlanta. But the fact that, they essentially swapped Giolito for Sale, not only in terms of spot in the rotation, but payroll and salary. And now Sale is looking great in camp, and Giolito may be lost for a year and a half. It certainly leaves them open to some second guessing.
And we're going to have Alex Anthopoulos on Friday to talk to us about that trade and whatever else is going on, and probably flex a little bit if Sale ends up working out like this. Sean, pleasure having you on. At Sean_McAdam if you want to follow him on Twitter and check out the articles on MassLive.com. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Sean McAdam, with us on FT Live. Okay, let's swing it right over to Hot Corner. There are some people that wanted us to start off the show with this, but we wanted to really absorb the artwork and let our AI brains process it before we showed it off to the world.
Not yet?
Well, also, we're not supposed to show it yet. Oh, wait, no, we are. I'm confused. There's an embargo. Here we go. The Oakland A's have a ballpark drawing, and it looks like Sydney, Australia. Is that not the Opera House in Sydney, Australia?
It looks sick. It
does look sick if they can build it like that. If they can build it to make it look with like the glass wall and all that, it's pretty sick.
Okay, so is it practical? Do you like it for baseball?
Why not?
What do you think of the batter's eye?
What batter's eye?
It's not.
What about
there.
the sun that's going to set in left field every day?
Oh, that's going to be weird.
They're going to have maybe a problem with that. I don't know, because that's facing west, right?
Where it lefties.
Doesn't the strip run north and south? I'm pretty sure the strip runs north and south, right? So the strip is going right through the left field wall. That would be west, right where New York is. So they would think that they might have thought about that. Maybe not. And then the scoreboard to me is super weird. Like, how are they going to do that thing on that's the only scoreboard? And there's no seats in the outfield either, which is also strange, but whatever.
Anything else?
I mean, we're picking it. If we're picking it apart a little bit, but if they get this, if they construct that, people will come to see that stadium. people will come to see it. That is a unique New York stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm afraid that what's going to actually happen, if this actually happens, is they're going to hear about what suites bring in, and it's just going to be a huge stadium of suites. Suites down by the field, suites, and it's not going to be the ballpark experience that you think it should be. But my question is it closed? Is it open? Is it?
Yes. No, it's
there's a
closed.
glass wall?
That's what I'm saying. How are they going to do like the glass thing? Like you see the left field is like all glass. It looks like bubble. If you zoom in on those pictures, if you have Twitter or Instagram, you can't, because you can't comment back to the A's because they block all comments. But if you look at it, it's like the little old like 80s like glass that like Miami Vice they had in the showers and stuff. Like I don't know what that glass is called, but that's what it looks like on that wall. Somehow they're obviously going to find a way to make it clearer. I don't know. I mean, this looks like something that we don't even know how to build right now, but I don't know.
It looks like one of those when you go to a car show, they have those concept cars, and you're like, wow, that would be awesome if they actually made that. They never make it. That car will never be a thing. That's what this looks like. And I like this picture here from Casey Pratt. Left field, the center field view from the rendering, right field,
or side.
The right picture is the center field view currently.
I think they're knocking that down, though, in fairness. No? Or is that staying up? I'm so confused because...
No, that's going down. That's Tropicana. Tropicana's getting white.
Right. And there's supposed to be a big tower that they didn't put in the renderings yet because it took them 8,000 years to come up with the renderings. They blamed everything weird for a while. And there you go. Sydney, Australia.
If somebody can do it, Vegas can do it.
I agree. I like the concept car thought, though. The problem is, in my mind, it had a lot of AI-generated rendering action to it, where I don't really believe that they're going to be able to accomplish what's on paper or digital, whatever you want to call it.
Can we, before we even get into that, $1.5 billion, right? Where's the money coming from? That's what I want to know. Where the fuck's the money coming from?
That's way higher than they originally said.
Yeah, wasn't it originally supposed to be like $700 million? 1.5 billion?
It was $700 million from the government, from the teachers fund. And then they said they were going to put up the other $500 million.
I thought it was it's in the mid 300s from the union. Or not from the union, sorry, from the public. From the public dollars.
That's taking away from the teachers.
Yeah, not the union. The union's fighting the situation. So
1.5 is a lot. That's a lot. They might have lost the bid too since they leaked it out too early.
That's another layer of the equation here. So Melissa Lockard covers the team for The Athletic, and she tweeted about the renderings, and so did others. And then apparently 6 minutes after they sent the press release, they sent what is called an embargo. An embargo means please hold what we're sending you until we release it ourselves or until we tell you when it is okay to release this. Let me give you an example of an embargo that makes sense. Around the All-Star time, you get, All-Star, reserves or the announcement, whatever it is that gets sent so that a publication can prepare themselves to have the story and have the assets, a TV network can put out congratulations to the player, etc., right? But they want to announce it on a particular show or a social media account. You're like, okay, cool. I mean, you're not hurting anyone by holding it back. Yeah, you don't want someone on a team to find out before you put it out, right? It's not that big of a deal. In this case, once you send something out without an embargo, it is fair game to publish. 6 minutes is 6 light years in today's world.
That's old news.
Are you kidding me? Think about the insider game. Like when we broke the Whit Merrifield story and then everyone stares at our tweet and 8 seconds later, everyone else is tweeting about it, right? So 6 minutes? Are you kidding me? 6 minutes, half the country already saw the renderings. So it's okay. They're still learning. John Fisher hasn't run a successful franchise before. He's learning. He's going to learn how to spell the word baseball at some point. I've been working with him for a while now. But anyway, they did botch that. And then that's why they started to come out with their own press, and you didn't really get much of an explanation. Here's the key too, AJ. when you put something like this out there, your concept car, your concept ballpark, you need to be very public and transparent right from the jump. What should happen nowadays when you put something out there that is supposed to be happening, this isn't a concept of a team that's trying to attempt to get money to build a ballpark. That is potentially, or that has supposedly already been put in play. So you're doing this. What should happen is ownership or team president coming out, doing a Q&A, talking about how they put all of this together and answering all of the questions. Apparently, the only question that I guess John Fisher really answered was, why is this not a retractable roof when there are certain time periods in Vegas where the weather is gorgeous? And he essentially said, most teams don't open the roof that much, so fuck off. That's what he said. If you're reading between the lines, I'm the John Fisher whisperer.
More expensive too. He also said it was more expensive, and also they only have 9 acres, so the roof takes up too much room. Here's all I'm gonna say: if they build this, I'll go watch a game there because it looks unbelievable. Right now, if we've talked about ifs on the show, if ducks had lips, they could whistle, things like that. But I mean, I don't know. I just don't know if. Like, it's always if. Like, if. Like, until I see the A's put a shovel into the ground and say, we have the money, here's the shovel. John Fisher throws it on Dave Cavall. He gets the shovel, then he gets to throw some dirt on somebody. Like, until I see that, it's all ifs to me because, yeah, this looks unbelievable. It looks cool as hell. But one, can they build this? 2, where's the money coming from? And then 3, will it really happen?
If ducks had lips, could they whistle? That's my favorite one. Your other one you use a lot is okay, but that one I like. But I hope this stadium happens. I hope they figure it out. I'm just not very optimistic about it, and it just doesn't seem feasible. I don't know, and I also think it was leaked. It was leaked on purpose. Even bad pub is pub. And they missed such an opportunity. Let's say this was the stadium you had, and you threw that, John, right up on the scoreboard during the Super Bowl. Come on back. Millions of people are coming, flocking to that city, and they're like, what? Right there in that parking lot, the dumpy hotel they're going to burn down is going to be this awesome spectacle. I'll come back and see it, just like AJ said. I'll come back and see it. They missed a big opportunity there.
One of the commenters, Bleach Soul, said Scott hates John Fisher like he kicked his puppy or something. He kicked my sport.
Right in the balls.
Yeah, right in the friggin' balls. He ruined baseball in one city, and he's now taking his baseball ruining tour to another city. Again, if you're new to the party here, I love Las Vegas. I want Las Vegas to have its own team that is free of the most poisonous owner in sports. So yes, I am going to be a bit biased as all of this comes out because this is a dude that can't get anything done. He can't make a deal with his shoes to get them tied.
Because Vegas can get stuff done. If there's a city that gets stuff done, maybe it's a smaller media, but man, they could make it a spectacle. They could do something awesome.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that we get rid of this dude, but you can't do that in sports. So anyway, to be continued. I hope that all of those dreams come true, and it looks exactly like that. But I would bet my salary that there will be more mistakes and more terrible situations that pop up with this group trying to figure out how to put pieces together, Lego pieces together to build their ballpark.
As Zoolander said, they need to make it at least 10 times that size. What is this, a stadium for ants?
Thank you. All right, let's get to some spring training news. And I'd like to start with Paul Skenes, if we can, because we have already found out that he is not going to be on the big league roster to start the season for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I am not high on the Pirates yet. The rebuild continues. I do not think this is a playoff team yet. I was on a little bit of a podcast tour yesterday where I appeared on a bunch of pods with people, and there was one host that was trying to talk me in to the Pirates being a sneaky good team this year. And some of it was based on the NL Central just being mid in Major League Baseball. And I was like, okay. But AJ, should Paul Skenes have gotten more of a look to just start the season in the bigs and not waste the bullets in the minor leagues?
Well, Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. He has pitched a couple times. I know Ahmed Rosario hit one 700 feet off him the other day in Tampa and Port Charlotte. But I mean, here's the deal. We don't know what kind of innings limits on this year. We don't know what kind of, I hate to use this word, service time manipulation, is happening. I know they've tried to mitigate that, but it still happens because, you can still, let's say he goes out and deals, the Pirates get an extra draft pick, but they also lose a year. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. I haven't watched every one of his starts. I saw the one with Jackson Holiday, which wasn't on TV, but I saw the highlights. And then you saw the one where Rosario hit the home run. This is just more of a, let's not rush this guy, I feel like, than anything else. And let's let him get to the minor leagues. Now, where's he go? Probably AAA. I'm not exactly sure where Pittsburgh's AAA is. It still in Indianapolis?
Indy.
Kratz? Okay. So Indianapolis is going to be a little chilly up there. So, I mean, do they keep him in Bradenton and let him pitch in Bradenton where it'll be warmer? I don't know. But there's a lot of factors because a lot of teams don't want to send their top pitching prospects to where it's cold because, cold brings in other factors. So, I don't know. I just want to say this is just an organization saying, let's take our time. Let's not rush this guy. Let's make sure he's perfected, he's healthy. And then, a couple months in, a month in, if he's doing well, then we can bring him up and let the hype train get started.
I think there's a lot to like about this guy, clearly. He threw 128 innings last year. So to me, the innings limit would probably be around 150. Do you give him 70 innings? Do you give him 15 starts in the minor leagues so that he can work on whatever they want him to work on? I think his third pitch is going to be huge. How that changeup comes, how he can, get more horizontal break on his breaking ball, because that sinker is not a sinker that's going to blow guys, get tons of swings and misses. I get it. He throws 102. How is he going to be able to mitigate a big league lineup if that third pitch isn't there? Obviously, we're splitting hairs. I don't see him spending the whole year in the minor leagues. He is somebody that hopefully could get called up if the team is what your podcast buddy was saying, like, hey, you know what? Who do we have to call up here? Oh, we got a Paul Skenes.
You're not saving innings, though. That's my thing. I mean, if you're Pittsburgh, you're freaking kissing the outfield grass if you make it to the playoffs this year, correct?
Just
to get into
contention.
The playoffs.
Just in contention.
So, with some teams like the Dodgers say, they're thinking playoffs, right? I don't want Walker Buehler's 150 to get me to September 15th, right? I want that to get me to November 1st. I get it. With Paul Skenes, I want him to just pitch, and if we feel like we've hit a limit, all good, because maybe he gets us into playoff contention. But you're fair. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but he was the best college pitcher. He's, for the most part, looked pretty damn good, aside from an Ahmed Rosario pitch, but even last year. So
that's going to happen all the time in the minor leagues.
I'm aggressive. I'm like, yo, this dude is this dude could come up and pitch right off the jump. And what's the worst case scenario? He's not that good, and you send him down, and then you bring him back up. The Diamondbacks did that with Brandon Crawford when he was up this year. They sent him back down. He's a pretty big deal in the playoffs. I know there's more innings in the minors, but is it overrated for someone like him? Does he really need to
go
spend
to
X amount of time down there?
I think so.
They think so. I think so.
You guys think so? That's what I'm asking. I'm not worried about nutting. I'm asking you guys.
And maybe AJ has a different view. I think you learn how to be a big leaguer, how to be a pro. And this guy spent 2 months as a pro, maybe. He threw 6 innings in pro ball last year. Yes, I get it. LSU is pro land, like that. They're making money. I'm talking about what it takes to be a pro, what it takes to get on a bus, what it takes to be ready every single day, develop that routine. Strasburg, he was the most highly touted that I ever paid attention to coming out of the minor leagues. And I think he made 12 to 15 starts. And he had better stuff. He had the late life. He had the curveball coming out of San Diego or San Diego State. And so to me, you learn things. You learn how to be a pro and come to the ballpark every single day.
Agreed. Agreed. There's things you can't learn. And plus, I'll say this too, and I'm a big proponent of this. We've had these conversations. At some point, you got to fail. And you have to learn how to fail because you don't learn anything. If he goes out and just dominates in college like he did, you're like, I'm never going to get hit. Well, guess what? Big league hitters can hit. And what happens if he goes 5 starts and he's 0-4 with a 9? And then he's like, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to find something, right? I think at some point you have to learn how to fail, at least just a little bit, so you have something to fall back on. And I'm not saying Paul Skenes is going to go to wherever he goes and fail, but it's always nice to have that to fall back on, because I played with guys, Eric, I'm sure you did too, that were rushed, right? Just thrown through the minor leagues. And then all of a sudden they're in the big leagues and they look around and they go 0 for 15. They're like, I've never gone 0 for 15 in my life. Now what do I do? And they have nowhere to go to. So I think that it's not necessarily a bad thing. It sucks for Paul Skenes. It sucks for Major League Baseball because, I'd like every fifth day to turn on my TV and see the Paul Skenes pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But at the end of the day, they have the ultimate power. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah. He was a pro for a while, though, AJ. He was at LSU making the big bucks.
He might have taken a pay cut with that first overall pick is all I'm saying.
He had a freaking run. Anyway, hopefully we see him in the big soon. I would have called him up right from the jump and be like, F it, we're the Pirates. We got to make the playoffs again. Let's try this out. Worst case, it's not working for him. We send him down. We'll get him back up. He's got confidence. He'll be fine.
I'm hoping there's no manipulation, service time manipulation stuff, because the Pirates, they would love to have an extra pick in the first round. Not saying he's going to win the Rookie of the Year, but if he does what he can do, is he a top 3? And that gets him a pick.
You're right. I agree. I think you're missing the boat by not doing that, but that's me.
They don't think he's ready, so I trust them.
Okay, fine.
I trust that staff. I really like the big league staff there. I think they make a lot of good choices.
I'm fine with that. All right, let's move on to the Shohei Ohtani Angels matchup. And we'll get all excited when it happens during the regular season. But I did like this tweet from Alden Gonzalez, who works for ESPN, and said Mike Trout had 17.8 Fangraphs WAR, 18-19, and would have won back-to-back MVPs if not for Mookie Betts. But Shohei Ohtani couldn't pitch. Ohtani would have won 3 straight MVPs if not for Aaron Judge, 21-23, but Trout missed 249 games. Just a shame they couldn't match their primes. I see part of that, AJ. The other part is it's a 26-man roster. It's really a 40-man roster that needs to be built these days, and they didn't have that. So yes, if they would have matched up a little bit more, then you have a better shot. I get what he's saying, and I like the point, right? If they're both in their super prime seasons, what does that look like? But baseball is not a 2-man show. Never going to be a 2-man show. So there just hasn't been enough solid support around those players. And I'll continue to say I think it's an organizational issue. It goes beyond just making transactions. It's how they nitpick at the little things that every player complains about when they touch that organization. And I think that freaking hurts the team.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't even know what you want me to say. We've beat this to death, right? Trout and Ohtani were the best 2 players going. Yes, they both were injured at the wrong times, but the Angels don't spend on starting pitchers. They haven't really developed great pitchers. They have some serviceable guys, and Sandoval and what's his name, Canning, and some other guys they brought up, Detmers, but they don't spend a lot of money on the bullpen. They don't spend a lot of money on the starting pitchers, and they've just missed. And then you throw in Rendon's, problems the last couple of years, another big money guy. It just hasn't worked out. They tried Joe Madden to get it right. He didn't work. It's just been a bad run of luck and bad run for the Angels for a while now. Since what year were they in the playoffs? 2014 was the year Trout made it to the playoffs against Kratzy. So, I mean, for almost 10 years now, they haven't even come close to making the postseason. So it's just been a bad decisions, bad luck, bad everything for the Angels.
I sit there and I go, after 2019, would you have been like, who are the best 3 hitters on one team? Anthony Rendon, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout. Holy cow. Like, is there a better top 3? Like, everybody else just kind of do your thing. So that, I mean, they had grandeur ideas of those dudes going to all-star games for the next 3 years till Shohei's contract was up. But Womp womp.
Don't forget Pujols. They signed Pujols at one time, and remember when Pujols went there? Everyone's like, "Damn, him and Trout together." And then he got hurt almost like right away. Remember, he like the plantar fasciitis and stuff started popping up on him, and you're like, "Oh man, like how cool would it have been to see Pujols and Trout together?"
There's a joke that one Twitter dude in baseball uses where he says, "Oh, I love this trade for the Rays." Who did they get when a trade gets announced for the Rays, right? They're just like, oh, they nailed it. The other side is, oh, I don't like this signing for the Angels. Who did they sign?
just in general.
They've just made mistakes there. They have.
And you're never going to be able to pinpoint the injuries exactly. Well, this is why he got plantar fasciitis. This is why, you can't. It's hard. And I hate when guys say, oh, he's injury prone, because yes, some of it's unlucky. Some players are soft, some of it, all that stuff. But if you're a team and you don't put the infrastructure together, if your team is working out in a tent in spring training, big league spring training, to me, you're cutting corners other places also. Don't cut corners when it comes to your players' health or the infrastructure that you're offering your players.
Agreed. That's not the place to cut corners. Just saying. You want to go to this Joey Votto pick?
Joey.
He's a model. Who's taking these pictures? Has he got
his Apple Watch?
Does he need the Lance Lynn question?
What's the Lance?
Remember
Lynn
you
question?
said, do you have to take pics for the fam?
He's becoming an Instagram. He has somebody, so he's becoming an Instagram. What do they call him when the girl takes all the pictures and there's a guy, Instagram boyfriend? Instagram boyfriend, like Joey has an Instagram something or an Instagram partner that's taking pictures of him because he's taken a lot of these lonely pictures lately.
Sitting at the park with the bat and the coffee, waiting for the phone call.
Lonely, so lonely.
I think we're going to get him on the show soon. My question is, has he gotten 0 phone calls or offers at all, or 0 big league offers? Do you think he hasn't even gotten a phone call for a Eddie Rosario minor league contract?
What did Brandon Crawford just say?
What?
He was like, yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't have a job. And when I talked to Brandon Belt, he's like, I was surprised at how few teams even reached out. So if they're not reaching out to Brandon Belt, who had an OPS plus of 136, sorry, Joey, like you're not getting reached out to if we're not hitting Brandon Belt up first.
Yep.
Sure.
That's true.
Listen,
but that's a head scratcher.
How many of these listen, I know Joey Votto's coming on soon, but how many he keeps doing this. Like it's like at some point you're like, okay, dude, we all had our run and it sucks and it's a sad day when it comes, but if there's no team reaching out to you, guess what? No team wants you that badly. I'm sorry. I mean, Joey Votto, you had a great career. You're probably going in the Hall of Fame. Shame you couldn't play one more year for the Reds. But at some point, aren't we just like, okay, Joey, we get it. You want to play baseball, but the time, it passes for everybody, right, Kratzy?
It does pass. And I was fortunate how I went out on my own terms. I didn't have to scrounge around for a minor league oh wait, no, I did that my whole career. But I did go out on my own terms. So I think guys handle it differently. Do I think he should be in the big leagues? Yes, I think there's a team that could 100% use him. Does it tarnish the way you look at Joey Votto if he takes a minor league camp invite to the Oakland A's and plays the whole season in Oakland?
No. I think it would be hilarious. That would be great content. Votto talking A's. That'd be awesome.
I also think that would be – I would believe in the pebble in the pond. It creates ripple effects throughout the entire organization. You sign Joey Votto, you're at least going to affect 1, if not 10 position players in that organization. Just by the way, he might be quirky. He might say things that you're like, I don't even know what he says, but watching how he goes about his business.
Want impact? Google Will Benson foul territory. Look up the interview. Either watch it later on YouTube or just put it on YouTube. Or if you're listening to the pod, do that. And you will see how Joey Votto added dubs for the Reds last year. Let's get to BetMGM win totals, and then we will talk to Ken. So we are going through the Minnesota Twins, the San Francisco Giants, and the Chicago White Sox today.
So happy for this day. So happy for this day.
Futures time, baby. Save best for last. Let's go. Minnesota, 86.5 dubs. Over, under, former Twin AJ Pierzynski. What do you think?
Dude, this is like my career timeline. Next, we went Minnesota to San Francisco.
It really is.
I mean, seriously, I'm like, who put these three together?
Claudia Magic.
Minnesota, I'm going to go over.
No,
I'm going to go
look.
88. I'm going to go over 88 Minnesota just because the division is what the division is, and I feel like they're the best team in the division. And I think they have the best pitching, so I'm going to go 88 for Minnesota. Over.
They're going to be good in close games again because that bullpen's going to sustain him, and I think Rocco handles him well. It's easier to handle 7 really good bullpen arms rather than 3 really good bullpen arms, but I think he is, and they added Topa too, who from the Mariners. So it's like the rich get richer in that department. I say over.
I'll go over as well. I think it's close, but I'll go over.
Of course it's close.
I'm saying it's not a 95-win team for me.
No.
It's like high 80s. That's where I see it. I think there'll be some central teams that are a little bit better, a little tougher to deal with this year. Royals are better. Tigers are better. So I didn't love the offseason, obviously, for the Twins. I mean, shedding some position player depth, fine. But the rotations, it's just okay. San Francisco, 81.5. I'll start. I'm going over. I like the Chapman pickup. I like the Lee pickup. Sure, did they maybe overpay for him? Maybe. But either way, I think he's going to be an above-average player in the bigs. I think he's going to hold down center field. I like the Robbie Ray pickup for the second half of the season. I think if this team is in that 500-ish range like they were last year, a little bit above at the trade deadline, I think they will actually somehow make some moves this time around. And I still think they're in play for one of the 2 pitchers that are left. When Farhan Zaidi says their offseason is done, that means it's probably not done. So I'll take the over. And this one to me is easy. I think they're a third-place team in the NL West and might sneak into a wild card spot. Former Giant, AJ Pierzynski, your thoughts?
This is tough. Before the Chapman signing, I'm going to go over, and I'm also going to say Farhan Zaidi's full of shit, and he's going to sign one more guy. And that's going to make him over. Just because I feel like he needs to do that. And if he gets a Snell or Montgomery, and then you throw in Robbie Way, Alex Cobb, Logan Webb, Jordan Hicks, I mean, listen, they've got a chance to be good. You throw in Bob Melvin, knows how to do a bullpen, and they have some bullpen pieces there. It's not going to be as much platooning. Guys are going to be in more comfortable roles. I think this is an 84 to 85 win team where they, I mean, listen. Are they better than the Padres? Are they better than the Diamondbacks? That's kind of the question. They're definitely better than the Rockies. Dodgers are definitely a better team. I think they're going to be right around 83 to 85. So I'm going to go over.
I'm going to smash the under in their games, and I'm going to smash the over in the futures because they're going to win some 3-1 games. They're going to win 5-2 on a Georgie Soler homer. And they're going to pick it. And I loved what you said about Bob Melvin. He will handle this bullpen. Something I don't think the bullpen was as bad as Gabe made it be. Mm-hmm. Gabe's inability to understand arm mitigation for 162 games, that was his MO in Philly. Best team in baseball for the first half. Worst team second half. That's not because they don't play well on the sun. It's because they were gassed. So I think, to me, this is kind of an easy. But I'm also, if this was something I could choose, I would choose this team to have the best record and not make the playoffs.
Okay. I like some of the young talent there, too. I think either Matos or Luciano has a good year, maybe both for them. So, yeah, I think it's an easy over. And lastly, the Chicago White Sox. AJ Pierzynski, will they finish at 64 plus wins or 63 or less?
Not answering this one.
That's not fair.
That is so awesome of you.
You can be a homer. You can bet with your heart. It's allowed. I mean, it's not advised.
I don't think it's his heart. I think.
What do you genuinely think? Take me inside your.
My heart says over.
Yeah.
Just because I want them to be better. My head says they're going to lose 100 again because they're the fourth best team in the division. I mean, the Twins, Guardians, Royals, and Tigers clearly have better rosters. I'm going to, you know what? Fuck it. They're going to win 65 games this year. Over.
Okay.
Wow. Look at you. AJ, Pedro, Pierzynski. I'm going to go with the under. 100 losses. 100 losses seems pretty easy because they're going to be subtracting their best pitcher at the All-Star break. And I have a tough time seeing somebody stepping up for that. I love all my ex-Royals teammates that are now on the White Sox, but I just think there is a lot of losses there. I think a win for them would be that Cease does really well and they get off their butt and they trade Luis Robert and get an absolute haul for him. I think that's probably too outside the box. I get it. You don't want to trade that guy, but I think also this is the other team. I said it with the A's. The A's and the White Sox will play to a tie, and so they will be the only teams that have a half on their actual record. So if there's a team that could finish at 63 and a half, it would be the White Sox.
Then it's a push. 56 and 106 will be the record for the White Sox. 56 and 106 was the record for the Kansas City Royals last year. The White Sox want to be the Royals from last year.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Look at you. What a parallel.
Also, though, in realness, their bullpen. So
they got rid of one of their best ceiling pitchers from their bullpen.
Right at the buzzer there. Well, they got rid of multiple good arms.
Well, and the mate's not back, obviously, but he was hurt. But
Bummer, I know wasn't good last year, but he is good. He gone.
He gone.
Santos right at the buzzer. That was going to be their closer. So anyway, place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the app of at least $5, and you'll get $150 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. That's right. Once you place the bet, if you're a new user and you put $5 into your account, you'll receive $150 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. And if you're in the state of North Carolina, it is pre-registration period mode right now. You will receive $200 in bonus bets on the first day that the BetMGM Sportsbook goes live in North Carolina. We're about a week away from that happening. So check that out if you are in NC. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And let's get right to Ken Rosenthal joining us right now. Let's start with the Ken Rosenthal tour. Ken, where have you been recently and what have you observed? Did you hit camp already this morning?
Yes, I am at the house that Pierzynski built, Minnesota.
Oh,
Twins.
No doubt.
And
Fort
just
Misery.
working on something with the Twins.
Wait, can we see the picture behind you? I want to see the. Can we get a single of? Whose office are you in?
Dustin Morse's, actually.
Oh, is he there?
No, he's not
Is he
here
there?
right now.
Oh, I was gonna say, just have him get behind you and just take his shirt off. Scott will get so jealous that he's so much better looking than Scott that Scott won't know what to do with himself.
I don't think Scott's too worried, actually, AJ. I think he's good.
Yeah, I'm definitely good. That is definitely an AJ thing. And I'll remind everyone about one of our first Ken Rosenthal hits that we had on this show, where he told everyone that baseball players recognize everything. If one hair is slightly off, they're all over you about it. So I'd just like to remind everyone that we're now about a year into FT. So let's get into some notes. So I want to start with Corbin Burns and what you put out there about his upcoming free agent situation and why you think it will be different from what Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery are experiencing right now.
Well, I approached him the other day at Orioles camp because he obviously has the same agent as Snell and Montgomery, Scott Boras. And my initial question was going to be, how concerned are you about the market? And that was the morning Zach Wheeler signed his deal. Zach Wheeler represented by Wasserman, BB Abbott. And I did ask the question to Corbin, even though, of course, the market that day was looking healthy. And he basically answered that he thinks this is kind of an aberration, that the RSN situation with the number of teams has affected things. But the reason I think it will be different for him is because he is an innings guy. And we don't see those very often anymore. And the 2 innings guys this year, and I mean by innings guy is someone who compiles a lot of innings, pitches 200. Those 2 guys this year who did that on the market, one was on the market, one was an extension. That's Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. They got paid. Corbin Burnes has been throughout his career that kind of guy, or since he's been a starter. He's an accomplished pitcher, Cy Young top 10 finisher 4 times, winner once. He's gone 200 plus and then 193 last year in the last 2 seasons. So I expect if he has the normal Corbin Burnes season, he's going to do rather well. And you guys know this as former players. I don't know that players ever worry about what's happening with others in certain circumstances. The great players. He'll look at this Corbin Burnes and say, okay, yeah, Snell and Montgomery, they're struggling, but I'm Corbin Burnes, man. Now, he's not saying that. But that's the mentality the great players have, and usually it's justified.
Ken, do you think this, I know Burnes has Scott Boras, do you think the way this offseason is played out will make Scott Boras more, fearful of taking guys to free agency and more amicable to signing guys to extensions? Because Wheeler got a huge extension. You don't think it'll change, even though 2 of his biggest assets are still sitting there?
Nope. And I did ask Burnes about why he switched to Boras from CAA about a year ago. And he said because he gets great deals for starting pitchers in free agency. Scherzer, Strasburg, Garrett Cole, 3 great examples. Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, not great examples. But as I wrote in that column, 6 years ago, or 5 years ago, I should say, the 2018-19 offseason, Boras had this kind of offseason. I don't remember the exact names. Keuchel was one. There were a couple of others that he appeared to miss on. And then I wrote a column at that time saying maybe the market has passed him by. Maybe he's not adjusting to shifting trends. Well, what happens the next year? He comes out smoking. It was Cole and Rendon and Strasburg, and he had all these great deals, more than $1 billion total. Next year's Scott Boras class includes Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, Corbin Burnes, most likely Cody Bellinger and Matt Chapman if they opt out, and maybe Snell and Montgomery if they get opt out. So I don't know that he's going to adjust his strategy any. He will probably spin this as what Corbin Burnes said. An example of the RSN situation being problematic, kind of an odd year in general because the Mets, Padres, and Red Sox have not spent to their normal levels. And it's just one of these things in his mind. Now, Scott Boras detractors will tell you this is happening because he wants too much and he's overplayed his hand, and all of these things together can be true. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not sitting in the middle of the negotiations, but to answer your question, AJ, I don't expect anything to change.
Because he's in it for the long haul. Boras is in it for the long haul, and he's going to get his number. If there's a little blip in the radar, do players see that? Does a player like Corbin Burnes see that as, it's just a blip in the radar? I'm not Jordan Montgomery, and I'm not Blake Snell.
That's exactly, I believe, how he sees it, Eric. He didn't say it in quite those terms, but he did say he thinks it's a blip in the market. Now, the other thing about extensions and Scott Boras that you have to remember, and he'll do them on occasion. Altuve just signed one. But it is rare for him to agree to a big-time extension with a client because his philosophy is get to free agency, get to the open market, have 30 teams bid on you, not one, and have the open market determine your value, not one team. Very often, this works for him. There are occasions, and we're seeing some of them this offseason, where it doesn't work as well. And hey, Matt Chapman turned down $150 million over 10 years from the A's. This was, I believe, entering the 20 season. Now, you can say it was the A's. It wouldn't have worked out. It was a low AAV. All that's true. But $150 million is $150 million. He probably would have gotten traded at some point. And that's almost 3 times what he ultimately got from the Giants. Now, granted, he's made some money in between, so it's not quite the math that I just described. But again, as I said on my show the other day, the way these things are measured is by the size of the guarantee. And by the sizes of the guarantees, Scott Boras can talk about the opt-outs and how they could ultimately benefit the player, and they might. In each case, maybe Bellinger and maybe Chapman get monster deals next year. But for now, you look at the guarantees, and they're not what was projected, what was expected.
In your article, you talked about Chapman's actual value. Is this a case where they got a Gold Glover at a discount in the sense of, kind of break down, if you don't mind, break down the value of how the teams see it? Because it takes two to tango, and the other side is the team that's actually paying these players.
What I wrote, Eric, it's kind of complicated, but I'll try to explain it as simply as I can. His 1 year salary, if he opts out, is going to be $20 million. Now, in addition to the $20 million they're paying him, they also lost the draft pick, 51st overall. That pick will have a slot value probably around $1.8 million. Steve Cohen, Mets owner, put out a tweet a few years back saying teams generally value draft picks at 5 times their slot value. So that's 1.8 times 5, $9 million. Add that to the $20 million. Matt Chapman is essentially a $29 million investment if he opts out after 1 year. So you might say, well, that's high for 1 year. But you know what? Matt Chapman has been essentially a 4-win player by WAR the last 3 years. This is more math coming, bear with me. And WAR, each point, teams generally look at it as worth 8 to 10 million. So a 4-win player is worth 32 to 40 million. And yes, if Matt Chapman, the investment amounts to essentially 29, they could be very well getting a bargain if he is that player again.
Ken, we had Sean McAdam on earlier from Boston. He's a beat writer from Boston. And we asked him about your article about Alex Cora. Is this going to be Alex Cora's last year in Boston? And if so, I mean, I read the article, but why? I mean, they seem to like him. They seem to get along. He seems to like it there. He seems to be able to handle the Boston media. Why would you let a guy like that walk?
Why have they conducted themselves the way they have this offseason? I don't know. And they've run themselves curiously. Now, why would you let him walk? AJ, in a situation like this, it seems to me that it has to play out. And we have to see how they perform, whether they overperform, how he gets along with his new chief baseball officer, Craig Breslow. These things are all part of the dynamic. And the other part, perhaps the most important part, is does he want to come back? And remember, Craig Counsell a year ago was in this exact position, entering essentially his walk year as a manager, becoming a free agent at the end of the season. And Counsell played it out. And then Counsell ultimately went to the open market and got a record deal. Alex Cora, if this team plays to, beyond expectations. If they play beyond expectations, and their expectations are rather low right now, if that happens, then in my view, he's going to be viewed as a hot guy. He might even be viewed as that guy anyway, because people in baseball might say, the Red Sox, it's not Cora's fault. Chaim Bloom, the last 2 deadlines were not great. Ownership this offseason, not great. Cora's doing what he can with what he has. And we could have several high-profile jobs open up at the end of the season. Again, depending upon what happens. So he wants to see how this all plays out. The Red Sox want to see how this all plays out. They could extend them right now. Maybe they would in certain circumstances. But with a new chief baseball officer coming off 2 78 and 84 seasons, if I'm the Red Sox, maybe I want to see a little bit more. And if I'm Cora, I want to show the world that I've still got it. That this isn't me that's causing this losing, these problems. That, hey, I can manage and get more out of my team than people expect.
We talk a lot about signings, and as a player, I want players to get big league deals. Eddie Rosario signed today on a minor league deal. I know it's listed as a split contract. It's a minor league deal with a possibility of making $4 million. As somebody, and you said it before, maybe WAR is not the best number. Is this the fallout that we're missing from this offseason? Because there's guys like all the guys you've mentioned. Brandon Belt had a 136 OPS plus. JD Martinez is still out there. Michael Lorenzen. Is Eddie Rosario a fallout of what's left on the market? A minor league deal for a guy who was NLCS MVP and accolades galore and can get hot as anybody?
Eddie Rosario, Gio Urshela, Tim Anderson even. We've seen a number of players have to accept lesser deals because it's late in the offseason. Teams are basically dropping the hammer. Now, I will say this. It pains me to see what is happening with those remaining players. I don't know what they've asked for. I don't know if their expectations were too high. And yet, at the same time, as we go forward here, as we see these players come off the board or not, it does bother me that this is happening. Now, I'll qualify it by saying it happens every year. There are always players weeded out of the system. It's just the natural course of baseball. But with the game skewing ever younger, it seems to be happening maybe even more than it has in the past. I don't have numbers to quantify that. It's just a feeling that I have. And it's two things. Again, I don't know what these guys have asked for, and I don't know if they're being, in the eyes of teams, unreasonable or beyond where they should be. And at the same time, it's a situation where when this does happen, it's not that unusual to see certain players undervalued in every market. It does happen every year. It's just disturbing to see qualified players. And I'll go through a list. Pham, Duvall, Michael A. Taylor, Michael Lorenzen. These guys are all legitimate major leaguers. Brandon Bell, you just mentioned him. And yet they're out there. JD Martinez is another one. They're just waiting. And I don't know that it's going to get any better for any of them. Maybe an injury would help, but I don't know that it's going to change much.
It hurts when I'm watching spring training games. I'm like, that's their starting outfield for certain teams. That's their fourth outfielder. And then we see moves like this. So I'll tie this into the Orioles part of your notes column. Baltimore, I get it. They have a roster crunch with how many talented young players they have. Most of the other teams need to be looking up these players. So what did you think of what Baltimore's got going right now, and obviously the logjam that they have, and them being, in my mind, allowed to not shop in these waters? Just like the Mariners, I would say, are probably the only team that I would go, you know what, they don't need a starter. They're good right now.
Scott, you're absolutely right, first of all, that there are a number of teams that could need or use any number of these players that I just mentioned. Let's face it, these are upgrades over what you have. And if you pay them a little bit more than you maybe want to, well, your team gets better. Hello. As for the Orioles, it's a fascinating camp because they have these infielders just coming out of the woodwork. Actually, not the woodwork. They're all on top 100 prospect lists for the most part. And they're going to have a lot of hard decisions because you have your rookie of the year, Gunnar Henderson. He'll be somewhere on the left side of the infield. You've got the number one prospect in the game, Jackson Holliday, who still stands a good chance of opening the season with the club. He's 20 years old. You've got Urias, you've got Mateo, you've got Westberg, and that's not even counting a guy like Kobe Mayo, who tore it up in AA and AAA last year and is barely even in this conversation. Then you move to the outfield. They've got Kjerstad, they've got Colton Cowser, and they've got Kyle Stowers. And these guys are all right on the doorstep, but they've got Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, and Anthony Santander ahead of them. So if you're the Orioles, you're in a great spot. And the only problem that they're going to have is disappointing some of their players. Now, fans might say, well, make a trade. Make another trade. You barely were even dented by the Burns trade, which is true. But it's harder to make a trade this time of year. We see them, but it's pretty rare we see deals late in spring training or around opening day. Not unprecedented, but my goodness, what team is going to give up another starting pitcher right now? They all need and are hoarding their starting pitchers. So come the deadline, I expect them to be a force again, the Orioles, depending on where they are in the standings.
I feel like if you're super rich in the world and you're interested in buying a franchise, this is a team to target right now. Oh, wait, that's happening. So, hey, that new ownership group has some nice toys to play with. It's going to be a really fun ride for them. You might take over a team and give them a title this or next year. So that would be a nice way to welcome yourself to the city a little bit more with authority. So, Ken, thanks for the time. Great to see you, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ken Rosenthal, FT Senior Insider, also the host, the sole host of the AJ-less Fair Territory, which includes the following topics this week: a deep dive into the Matt Chapman deal, the Ronald Acuna Jr. injury situation, which, of course, since then, we did get the reports back in person that he should be okay, so that's good. Mike Trout hellbent on returning to his former self. That's a good inside dish with Ken there. More on the Boris topics. Grillin' Ken, which you can participate in, by the way. If you're watching this show on Twitter right now, first off, you should join the party on YouTube because we do this every day for free on YouTube. But also, if you're on Twitter, look out every weekend for Ken's tweet about Fair Territory. Him and our wonderful production team behind the scenes, led by his lead producer, Jeremy, goes through all of those tweets and they pick out some questions that Ken addresses on the show. Let's slap. All right, so let's do a tweet first. We had almost every big Met on the show yesterday. It was awesome. So if you missed that, you can watch back yesterday's show, or you'll see podcasts coming out with those interviews if you're on the audio side. Keith Rad, who's one of the radio broadcasters for the Mets, was checking out the Pete Alonso interview. And of course, we asked Pete about the Poop Homer aftermath, which was an ultra viral moment for Pete last year. Brought in a lot of fans internationally that probably didn't even know much about baseball. If you watch this show regularly and you're unaware of it at this point, then look it up. Anyway, he said, "True story, Scott. I fell for it last year. I asked Pete post-game radio that night if he swung at the first pitch because Hunter Green was striking everyone out in the previous inning, getting guys deep into counts. It turns out that's not why." That was my personal favorite part of the Pete Alonso Poop Homer story because of how in-depth people get. And Keith was even taking it, midway through the in-depth level. There is the next level where someone's like, this percentage of sliders first pitch to this dude in the lineup versus a righty, blah, 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 right? Which often is the case. Information is helpful, but so is coffee.
Coffee will tell the whole story.
He was so mad I didn't bring him a coffee yesterday. He was so mad.
That would have been a good play by you.
It would have been a great play. Can I get help from you guys on this? So a fan sent us this little video on Instagram. I believe the fan's name is Gavin. Here, watch this. Do we have sound?
Oh, man.
Have
If
you
we
seen
don't
this?
have sound, this is at TCU, correct? Or is that Texas Tech?
That's A&M.
Texas A&M. Thank you. Thank you.
Game 2 of the 2016 College Station Super Regional. We're looking at it. You can find the clip too, and maybe we'll post about it.
The way I heard it, this is what they do. You throw, I think it's if you throw 3 balls in a row, they will chant it in between. You can't hear. You see the fans right now. They're saying ball 7, ball 7, ball 7. Then he throws another one, ball 8, ball 8. And it is epic. College baseball it's a vibe. It is an atmosphere. I mean, you talk about the Ole Miss. And I think isn't Ole Miss adding on to their stadium too? They're already like a minor league stadium. They're adding on. You have what LSU has. You have, I know I'm missing some stadiums that are some epic places to watch.
South Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, Whit was
Arkansas.
talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas, South Carolina, Florida.
I have questions.
Mississippi
AJ,
State is the one. Mississippi State is sick. What's up?
Why don't you call timeout for your pitcher in this situation?
Because then they just keep chanting it.
Oh, so you don't. So that hurts to do
They
that?
don't stop.
Okay.
Well, I will say this:
And the
TCU
kids-
went on to win that series, so he basically gave him the finger. He said, "Ball ate that."
Yeah, there was one comment on this that said a down year for Traver, I think is the last name. Dealt with injury, only pitched 7 games. Overall, finished his career sub-3 ERA. Solid pitcher, great dude. Currently the FCA rep for TCU.
Yeah. Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Oh, got it. So there you go. That was unique. And for me personally, this is the one thing I can comment on. A+ job by the broadcasters, letting it breathe. They did not talk the entire time during the fan bonanza.
Thank you for that.
We
AJ,
don't always
AJ.
need to hear you talk just because you have a mic.
What do we call that, Scott? Laying out. Lay out.
Lay out. Let it breathe. It's not about you.
Let
It's
the
about
crowd
the
tell
event.
the story. You don't need to tell a guy. You don't need to tell the people at home that a guy just hit a homer when they just watched him do it, and the crowd's going crazy. Let the crowd tell the story.
100,000% accurate. I am with you. Kratz, what do you got?
Bacon. Bacon, 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 bacon.
Repeat.
Not in the second round.
This is round 2, dude. After a year, we get to repeat.
Oh,
I literally
okay.
I'm not doing
till the
10,000 Kratz. We're going to do 10,000 episodes.
Until Major League Baseball sends me every spring training hat, and we can grade them on here because I think the spring training hats are fiery.
Yeah.
We're going to have to keep repeating. My last hat was on the last day of the World Series, ironically, because some of the other ones that I tried to put on, like my 8th grade baseball team hat, it's falling apart. It doesn't fit. But yes, I do still have my 8th grade hat.
AJ, grade?
I mean, I like bacon. I'll give it a B.
B for bacon.
A- for me. I like bacon. I like gray hats. I think they did a nice job on the logo. It's got some sizzle, but not too much sizzle. So A-, which is a very
Sizzle.
high grade.
He said sizzle.
I did say sizzle. That was on purpose.
That was corny.
When Kratz says I'm corny, I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm literally leaving. The show is over at exactly 1 p.m. We're amazing. Where are we tomorrow?
Jupiter, St. Louis.
Not the planet.
Even
I'm
better.
in Jupiter, Florida. I'm to St. Louis Cardinals. I'm going to get Lance Lynn. I'm going to shame Matt Carpenter into coming on. I'm going to shame Sonny Gray. No, I don't know if he's shameable. But I'm going to try. Ollie Marmol, Dr. Phillips High School fellow alumni. He's got to come on. Yeah, we're just going to effort.
Tell Sonny Gray he is probably the most requested player when I ask fans to DM us on IG which player they want to bring on the show. He made like a super brief appearance last year, but tell him he is very popular if that helps the cause. And for everyone, the 15,000 watching
I'm going to hit Goldie. I'm going to hit Arenado. I'm going to try Jordan Walker, maybe Mason Wynn. I got to leave at like 5 in the morning to get there so when the clubhouse opens, I get a full hour in there to just annoy the shit out of them.
We'll talk hitting. We'll talk hitting with Arenado. He loves to talk hitting. That's all we'll talk about.
I'm down. Tell him. 15,000 watching on Twitter right now. If you're new to the party, it's FT Live every day on YouTube. The YouTube chat would love to welcome you. We're here for you. It's free. It's a baseball show. It's real. And we get better guests than anyone else. See ya at Cardinals.
And subscribe, please. It's free.